When will it end, and when is the time to actually start panicking is the topic of today as we get through some Bitcoin price analysis. Also looking at traditional markets here too, as we did look at in yesterday's video. Bitcoin downside was likely, and as Bitcoin now has come down to about 55,555, definitely a Thai person doing that, I think. We do have a few new things to be looking at, as well as some major areas of interest that, if met, would be massively concerning in the way that this whole range is actually confirming a real breakdown to the downside in this case, and we can expect much lower prices. But other than that, I should once again let you know that you can still get all of the programs and services for 20% off with the code BDAY in all capitals with the link in the description below on Teachable. Of course, the Krown automation is actually 80% off for the first month. So if you want to try it out, if you want to try it to actually automate your trades, wake up in the morning and, have your trades being executed for you by your nice little bot slave, you can try that for 80% off, which is about $30 or a little bit above $30 as of right now. In fact, I do want to update on this setup over here because I did get a few more questions about this. This was a short setup that we went over, I think it was like a week and a half ago now. This one obviously did close on that move on Monday, the 2nd of September, but I did want to update because I got a lot of questions about this. There has not been another entry initiated for that Tuesday closure below the red 5 exponential moving average right here. It will indeed open a new position if Bitcoin does close below it again today, which would be effectively at the price of 57,850. But do keep in mind, it's a long day left to go, 16 hours, 34 minutes and 57 seconds and counting. So I'd hold a little bit of reservations for that just yet. But yes, Bitcoin does close below there. Another one of these will open up and, trend is in that, is in the downside favor right now. So that would also be a little more concerning in the early portion of this month. Again, I want to remind myself about this data over here that the lows for September are very unlikely to be in until we at least get into the midpoint of September. In fact, only twice has the low in September been put in before the 4th, or today's date, the 4th of September. We saw on 2012 and also in 2016, Bitcoin did put in the low on the 2nd of September. But other than that, those were the only times where it was, that early. Most of them coming in around that 2nd to especially 3rd week. Of course, we've been preparing for this for a while, and it's a big topic actually last year as well, in the sense that, the quad witching date for September is a big one that typically is a major pivot for price action. So, I would still be kind of reserved here, or a little more skeptical of Bitcoin putting in a low until we're around or a little bit closer to that date at minimum. Now, here's the thing. I did want to get into traditional markets. So we are getting the pullback in traditional markets now. Of course, this pullback, still have to be on higher low watch, at least in the way that I look at things. And as it does come down here, and actually rather aggressively yesterday for the first real trading day of September, I do want to highlight that the 382 level has been indeed broken, or is being lived below as of right now. But it's really the 50% level right here, which is 18,687, which is the one that I'd really be keeping a keen eye on. That is where the last real breakout came to the upside from the 13th of August. And so what we would be expecting if traditional markets are bullish, NASDAQ, which has a strong correlation with Bitcoin, especially to the downside, not necessarily to the upside, but to the downside definitely, is that if we are going to see a higher low, we probably do expect it around this region, give or take a few bucks. So that would imply that the lows are probably still not in for traditional markets, probably does come down a little bit further, which does mean that there's likely going to be some downside pressure on price action for Bitcoin. Here's the thing, and to answer the initial statement of this video, when to kind of panic, or what would be a damn good signal that things, will be heading lower is if Bitcoin, or sorry, not Bitcoin, but NASDAQ does close below this pivot. Again, it's 18,687. If you see closures below there, especially below 18,620, basically, I would be looking at this as actually a bit of a bull trap here, and also NASDAQ likely to come lower, which likely does correlate with Bitcoin coming lower as well. Again, uncorrelated to the upside. strongly correlated to the downside is what it does feel like. It's kind of not the best for Bitcoin. But moving on into some price statistics, I do want to remind myself that Wednesday is a more likely day to close negatively than positively. Since 2024 began, 60% of all Wednesdays have closed negatively. However, in comparison to Tuesday, which was also massively weighted towards negative closures, the average return for those negative closing Wednesdays is actually only 187, which is a little bit more on the lower end, I suppose. For the positive gaining Wednesdays, however, it does have the highest positive returns on average at just over 3.5%. So I do think that that's a little bit less likely today. But of course, let's come up with this as a range because this has been working incredibly well. It worked again yesterday. So let's see what we have right here. 187 to the downside would put Bitcoin basically where it's at right now, actually. So $56,500. So if Bitcoin does close down around here, or likely close down around here if it is going to be a negative day. To the upside, if Bitcoin were to play out about a 3.5% move, that would actually put it basically back around yesterday's high at 59,500. I do think personally it's a little bit less likely. As far as the high-low range goes, which essentially represents volatility, Wednesday is among the more it's close to one of the higher volatility days. Obviously, Monday is the most volatile, followed by Friday, and then a very, very close third would be Wednesday. But should we expect some price action today? Probably yes. Probably a little bit of price action here for Bitcoin. So I did want to highlight that up as well. Of course, the historical price action statistics is actually 20% off as well. I've been seeing a lot of people getting into that, which is good because honestly, it's great. It's all the way down here. That's why people don't know about it though. It's all the way at the bottom of the page. But yes, it is giving these stats right here. And as you can see on a day-by-day basis, these do typically mark off these sort of ranges for the day, and actually several strategies can be made upon that. I'm actually in the process of making a few more. Anyways, okay, moving on from there. And damn, I forgot my notes. Okay, let me just pull this back up. Yes, we got that. Of course, not just NASDAQ pulling back; it's also SPY futures as well. Not as weak here, but. Just want to be aware that this can pull back more, still be a higher low, but what does that do to Bitcoin, in the meantime? But yes, okay. Now I wanted to get into a little bit of stochastic momentum because we do have several timeframes actually closing tonight for the daily, the 2-day, and the 5-day. So the daily timeframe is going to continue to the downside on CME with any sort of a closure today below 60,000, basically $60,000. So say probably on the unlikely side that Bitcoin closes above, also making its way healthily into the bearish control zone here. The 2-day time frame is going to be freshly crossing down after failing to get out of the neutral zone, assuming today closes below 58,850. So right now trading about $2,000 below that pivot. And then the 5-day time frame is also going to be closing tonight. Yes, indeed. Just wanted to double check there. And same thing here, basically as a 2-day, except the pivot is actually much higher at 64,640. So of course, we should also remind ourselves that the weekly is also coming down. And that does imply that, if Bitcoin is going to break down, I mean, this early portion of September doesn't just make sense from like a seasonal perspective. I don't know, just this data over here, nor also the price statistics over here. But looking at it right now, momentum is pretty much aligned on all higher timeframes: daily, 2-day, 5-day, weekly, monthly, obviously down as well. So if Bitcoin does want to play out a downside move, this is likely the area that it does come from. So again, it's a game of survival here, especially until like the mid/later portion of September. You can see the monthly has reconnected with that 5 exponential, as did the weekly, as we said was likely. The question is what happens next, because this would be the push-off point essentially. So, I do think that Bitcoin could very easily come back down and at least test somewhere around the weekly 55, which is 53,300. Probably should be looking for a bounce there on the first pass, but after that first pass, that is maybe where things get a little bit more concerning. But for right now, let's see how these timeframes close later tonight. It is looking like most of them are going to confirm down. And so bears do have the ball in their court and do have the initiative here, I would suspect, for the next couple weeks, basically. So moving on from there, I did want to get into just a very specific level for Bitcoin on CME here, that if it closes below, this would also be indicative that lower prices are likely warranted, meaning that, Bitcoin probably does test around that low 53. And as you can see on the daily HPDR, the Bitcoin is still on CME playing in this lower block between the 61.8 and the 78.6 level. But, any sort of a closure below the 78.6 level, which would also correlate with the closure below the 15th of August last higher low on the daily, would very likely lead towards an official retest, of the lows that we saw in early August. So I would be cognizant of that. What is that? What am I trying to say? Look, if you are looking for Bitcoin to grind it out here, you want Bitcoin to grind it out here, like not lower than 56, basically. On a daily closing basis. So the BULAs are probably looking for something like this, hold it sideways for a little bit of time, let these things kind of catch up, let volatility start to compress yet again, and then maybe get another relief rally. And then if that relief rally got back above your August highs, really fucking good for the BULAs there, really fucking bullish. But until then, this is kind of the time to be defensive, as I'll continue to repeat. It's not guaranteed price will come down and actually have a real breakdown, but this would be the time where if it is going to happen, probably does happen. So just be aware of that, especially with traditional markets continuing on with this pullback. And I don't think that pullback is done just yet. I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be a real actual bull trap here as well. I mean, there are some indications of that. But anyways, going forwards from here, is there anything else that I want to speak about? Yes, indeed. It's the real analysis time. Again, the moons had it. No, it's of course just 1 or 2 days into this moon. But it is interesting. I mean, it is kind of interesting to see that price continues to follow. But I suppose, again, if you're looking for the Bitcoin level that indicates panic, at least in my eyes, below your 15th of August low is going to be a little bit more panic inducing, let's say. But until then, still there's a bit of hope even in the back that Bitcoin does dig in its heels, trade sideways for a while, kind of just farts around and just survive September. And if it survives September, October very likely to be a nice move to the upside. The question is, how far down do things come between now and then? And well, only time will tell for that. We just know that right now is the time to be defensive. In fact, I'll just take a moment here to look at some of the other market leaders just to see if there's anything super obvious, because I haven't really checked on them in a while. Solana, very similar to Bitcoin, consolidating at a high level. We haven't had the true breakdown just yet, but is testing the lower boundary of this sort of consolidation. Ethereum, certainly on the weaker side, very much on the weaker side. Hard to love this one as long as it's below your August highs. Definitely not the picture of strength here compared to Bitcoin or Solana. So I'd really be looking for Bitcoin or Solana to show an actual reversal first. If a reversal is going to happen for Ethereum, it's a lot further away, to be fair. So I'd keep that in mind. It's really Bitcoin and Solana right now. And actually Solana, interesting enough, kind of holding it a little bit better than Bitcoin. Let's see what Solana versus Bitcoin pairing looks like. Almost the same as their USD chart. So yeah, fair enough. All right. I think that'll do it for today. Nice and short and sweet here, just kind of updating on the sort of specific pivots and whatnot as we go onwards and forwards. I do want to point you towards actually yesterday's video that I posted on how to automate your trades on from what I'm aware of, the only non-KYC centralized exchange option that is available as of right now. That video is available to you, and you can actually pretty much try out all of the things necessary to automate your trades and your backtesting and everything basically for a very, very low cost. There are promotional codes for Alertron. There's promotional codes for the exchange, and then there's promotional codes of course for our services here. So that is going to do it for today. I'll be signing off on that note. I have no extra video for you today because I need to get to sparring. And I'd like to wish you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Thursday.